Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. When I was a kid, my world was quite different from what you'd expect. My name was Cole back then, a name that never quite felt like it fit. I remember the first time I realized this, back when I was about 6 or 7 years old. It was a simple moment, really, but it stayed with me. I was at my friend Lily's house for her birthday party. Lily and her friends decided to play dress-up, a common game for kids our age. They had a big box of costumes and clothes, and everyone was diving in, grabbing pieces to put on. I remember feeling unsure about what to grab. Then Lily, with a smile, handed me a shimmering pink skirt and a sparkly top. "Here, Cole, you can be a princess with us," she said. I hesitated, but the excitement in her eyes was infectious. So I put them on. The skirt was soft, swishing around my legs in a way my usual shorts never did. The top glittered under the room's lights, making me feel like I was part of some magical world. It was different, but it was a good different. After dress-up, Lily's older sister, who was about 16, suggested doing makeovers. She had a small makeup kit, and one by one, she transformed us. When it was my turn, I sat on a chair, feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement. She applied a light foundation, a bit of blush, and even a dab of pink lipstick. The moment I saw my reflection, I was amazed. The boy in the mirror looked different, happier somehow. A few months later, our school announced a play. They needed someone to play a female character, and I volunteered without a second thought. The role required me to wear a dress, a wig with long, wavy hair, and a bit of makeup. During the rehearsals, I felt a sense of rightness, a comfort I couldn't explain. It was as if I was unlocking a part of me that had been hidden away. As I grew a bit older, these moments of playing dress-up and experimenting with feminine attire became secret treasures in my mind. They were moments where I felt free, where the heaviness that often sat in my chest lifted. But they were fleeting, disappearing as quickly as they came. At home, things were different. My parents were kind, but they were very religious. They had clear ideas about what boys should be like and what they should do. I knew even then that they wouldn't understand or accept this part of me, so I kept it hidden, locked away deep inside. In those days, my room became my sanctuary. It was the only place where I could explore this part of myself. I would wait until I was alone, then I'd pull out a small bag I kept hidden in my closet. It contained a few items of clothing I had secretly bought online, a soft purple blouse, a pair of leggings, and a scarf. I would dress up, look at myself in the mirror, and for a brief moment feel a sense of peace. As I entered my teenage years, my life started to feel more and more complicated. I was growing up, and everything around me seemed to be changing too quickly. The feelings I had about who I was deep down, the feelings I discovered during those dress-up days and theater plays were getting stronger. I remember sitting in my room, looking at my reflection in the mirror. I wasn't just a kid playing dress-up anymore. I was a teenager, and everything felt more real, more urgent. The clothes I wore didn't feel right. My body didn't feel like it was mine. It was confusing and a bit scary. I didn't have a word for what I was feeling, but I knew it was something big. During this time, I found a small sense of relief in my secret moments. When I was alone in my room, I would carefully dress in the clothes I had bought online, a soft, flowery blouse, a knee-length skirt, and sometimes, when I felt particularly brave, a pair of tights. Standing in front of the mirror, I saw a glimpse of happiness. A glimpse of me. But these moments were always short. I knew I couldn't let my parents find out. They were nice, but their beliefs were strict. They often talked about what they thought was right and wrong, and I knew that me wearing girls' clothes wouldn't be okay with them. I also had to be careful at school. High school can be tough, and people can be mean if you're different. So I tried something new. I started wearing clothes that weren't exactly boys' clothes, but weren't girls' clothes either. They call them androgynous clothes that could be for anyone. I also started wearing a bit of makeup, but not too much, just a little to make my face look softer. For a while, I thought no one noticed. But then, one day, a girl in my class, Emma, came up to me. She had always been nice, but we weren't really friends. "I like your shirt," she said, looking at my androgynous outfit. I thanked her, feeling a bit nervous. The next day, Emma came to me again. I also noticed your makeup. It's pretty subtle, but it's nice, she said, smiling. My heart skipped a beat. I didn't know what to say. Was she going to make fun of me? But then she surprised me. Do you want some tips? I'm pretty good with makeup, she offered. Emma and I started spending time together after school. She taught me how to apply makeup properly, how to use mascara, eyeliner, and how to pick the right shades of lipstick. She even helped me pick out clothes. We would go to the mall together, and she'd show me how to find clothes that fit me well and made me feel good. It was during these times with Emma that I started to feel a bit more like myself. She never asked why I wanted to wear girls' clothes or makeup. She just accepted it and helped me. It was a nice change from the fear and hiding I was used to. But even with Emma's help, things were still hard. Every morning, I had to decide how much of myself I could show to the world. How much makeup could I wear before someone at school would make a comment? Could I wear the blouse I loved, or was it too risky? It was like walking on a tightrope, trying not to fall. At home, I was careful to keep my makeup and clothes hidden. I was scared of what would happen if my parents found out. Every night, I would carefully put away my makeup and clothes, tucking them back into their hiding spots. I felt like I was living two different lives, the one everyone saw and the one I kept secret. Life continued in a sort of quiet rhythm, a mix of ordinary school days and the secret moments of happiness I found in my room. Emma, the girl who had noticed my makeup and androgynous clothes, became a good friend. She was like a guide, showing me ways to express the part of me I kept hidden from everyone else. Emma had a knack for fashion and makeup. She knew how to mix and match clothes to create outfits that looked great but didn't draw too much attention. She would often bring clothes for me to try, explaining how to combine them to look more feminine without being too obvious. It's all about balance, she would say with a smile. We would often meet at her house after school. Her room became our little workshop, where she taught me how to walk and talk in a way that felt more natural to me. She showed me how to walk with shorter, more graceful steps and how to soften my voice. It was strange at first, but with practice, it started to feel more and more comfortable. One day, Emma brought a bag full of clothes she had picked out for me. I thought these would look amazing on you, she said, her eyes shining with excitement. She had chosen a range of skirts, blouses, and even a dress. Trying them on, I felt a rush of happiness. Each piece of clothing seemed to transform me, bringing me closer to the person I felt I was inside. Emma also became my teacher in the world of makeup. She had an array of cosmetics, eyeshadows, lipsticks, blushes, and more. She taught me how to apply each one, showing me techniques to enhance my features. I was amazed at how different I could look with the right makeup. The face staring back at me from the mirror was more and more like the one I saw in my dreams. Shaving was another thing Emma helped me with. She taught me how to do it properly so my skin would be smooth without getting irritated. It was a small thing, but it made a big difference in how I felt. But it wasn't just about the clothes or the makeup. Emma listened to me. I could talk to her about my fears and my hopes. She never judged me. She just listened and offered her support. It was a relief to have someone to talk to, someone who understood. As time went by, I started to feel more confident. With Emma's help, I began to understand more about who I was. The clothes and makeup were a big part of it, but it was more than that. It was about feeling comfortable in my skin, feeling like I could be myself. But there was still a part of my life where I couldn't be myself at home. My parents were as kind as ever, but I knew they wouldn't understand. They had their beliefs, and those beliefs didn't have room for a son who wanted to wear dresses and makeup. So I kept my secret, hiding my clothes and makeup whenever I wasn't alone. The fear of them finding out was always there like a shadow. I knew I couldn't keep hiding forever, but I wasn't ready to tell them. Not yet. I was scared of what they would say, scared of what it would mean for our family. Life was complicated, but with Emma trying on clothes and talking about everything and nothing, I found a bit of peace. I think you should start showing your parents who you really are, bit by bit, Emma suggested one afternoon. Maybe they'll understand if they see it's not just a sudden change. Her idea made sense. I was terrified of telling my parents everything at once. So we decided I would start by wearing slightly more feminine clothes around the house and adding a bit more makeup. It was a small step, but even that felt huge to me. The first few times I wore a slightly feminine shirt or a bit more makeup at home, my heart raced. I was waiting for my parents to say something, but they didn't. Maybe they didn't notice, or maybe they didn't want to notice. After a few weeks, I got a little braver. I started letting my hair grow longer and styled it in a way that made me feel more like myself. My parents finally started to notice. My mom asked me a few times about my new style, but I just shrugged it off. "It's just fashion, Mom," I would say, trying to sound casual. But as the days passed, the tension at home grew. My parents started asking more questions. They seemed worried, confused. I knew I couldn't keep avoiding the truth much longer. Then, one evening, it all came out. We were having dinner, and my dad looked at me, really looked at me. "Why are you changing your style so much? Is there something you want to tell us?" he asked, his voice serious. I froze. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. I looked at my mom, then at my dad. They both looked back, waiting for my answer. I took a deep breath. I feel more comfortable this way," I started, my voice shaking. "I've felt different for a long time since I was little. These clothes, this style, it makes me feel like myself." There was a long silence. My parents exchanged glances, and I could see the worry in their eyes. My dad finally spoke. "We don't understand. You're our son. Why would you want to dress like a girl?" His words felt like a heavy weight. I tried to explain, to tell them about how I had felt since I was little, about the happiness I found in wearing these clothes, but it was hard. They didn't seem to understand. My mom was quiet, but her face looked sad, almost like she was going to cry. The conversation ended with a lot of unspoken words hanging in the air. I went to my room, feeling a mix of sadness and frustration. It felt like they would never understand who I really was. The next few days at home were tough. My parents were quieter than usual. They didn't say much about my clothes or hair anymore, but I could feel their confusion and disappointment. It was like a giant wall had built up between us. Despite the tension at home, I didn't stop expressing myself. With Emma's support, I continued to wear the clothes that made me feel comfortable. But every time I put on a blouse or applied makeup, I felt the weight of my parents' disapproval. It was a strange time. At school, with Emma, I could be myself. But at home, I felt like I was constantly hiding, even when I was showing who I truly was. It was like living in two different worlds, and it was exhausting. Emma was my rock during those days. She listened to me when I talked about the problems at home, and she always had a way of making me feel better. "You're brave," she would say. "Being true to yourself is the bravest thing you can do." But even with Emma's support, the situation at home didn't get better. My parents started talking about taking me to talk to someone, thinking it would help me. I knew they meant well, but it felt like they just wanted me to change back to the son they thought they knew. I was almost 18 now, and I knew things couldn't stay like this forever. I had to make a choice about my future, about who I wanted to be. It was scary, but I knew I couldn't hide forever. My 18th birthday was a turning point. It was the day I decided to step into a life that was truly mine. The night before my birthday, I lay in bed thinking about everything: my parents, my feelings, the clothes hidden in my closet. I knew that the next day things would change. On the morning of my birthday, I woke up early. The house was quiet, and for a moment I just lay there, thinking. Then I got up, packed a few things into a bag, some clothes, my makeup, a few personal items. I wrote a note to my parents, telling them I needed to find my own way, to be who I really was. I didn't know what else to say. The words were hard to find. I left the house before anyone else was awake. The air was cool, and the sky was just starting to light up with the morning. I felt a mix of fear and excitement as I walked away from the only home I had known. It was scary, but it also felt right. I went to Emma's house first. She had already agreed to let me stay with her for a while. When I told her I had left home, she just hugged me. You're doing the right thing," she said. Emma's family was kind and understanding. They welcomed me and made me feel safe. Over the next few weeks, I started to explore what it meant to truly be myself. For the first time, I could wear the clothes I wanted all the time. I could put on makeup without hiding. It was liberating, feeling the freedom to express myself openly. Emma was by my side through it all. She helped me pick out new clothes and experiment with different styles. We would go shopping together, trying on outfits and laughing. It was fun, but it was also more than that. It was like I was finally finding pieces of myself that had been missing. I also began to research more about what it meant to be transgender. I learned about hormone therapy and what it could do. The idea of starting hormones was both exciting and a bit scary. It would be a big step, but I felt ready for it. After a lot of thinking, I decided to go to a doctor and talk about starting hormone therapy. The doctor was kind and listened to me. She explained how hormones would work and what changes I could expect. It was a lot to take in, but I felt certain this was the path I wanted to take. Starting hormone therapy was a big moment for me. It felt like the beginning of a new chapter. I started to see changes in my body and face. My skin got softer. My body shape started to change. Every small change felt like a victory, a step closer to the person I saw in my dreams. But it wasn't just about the physical changes. Hormone therapy also affected how I felt inside. I started to feel more at peace, more like myself. It was as if all the confusion and sadness were slowly being replaced by a sense of rightness. During this time, I also started to think about my name. Cole didn't feel like it fit me anymore. I wanted a name that reflected who I was. After a lot of thought, I chose Cloe. It felt right, like it was the name I was always meant to have. Changing my name was another step in my journey. It was like I was leaving behind the old me and embracing the new me. Emma was the first person I told my new name to, and she just smiled. "Cloe, it's perfect for you," she said. Months turned into a year, and during that time, my life as Cloe became more and more real. Every day, I learned a little more about who I was, and with Emma's help, I felt confident and happy. But there was still one part of my life that felt incomplete: my family. I hadn't talked to my parents since I left home on my 18th birthday. I missed them, but I was also scared. What if they still didn't understand? What if they didn't accept Cloe? These thoughts often swirled in my mind. One day, Emma encouraged me to try reaching out to them. "Maybe they just need time to see that you're still you, just happier," she said. Her words made sense, so I decided to write them a letter. I told them about my life, about Cloe, and how much happier I felt. I didn't know what to expect, but I hoped they would at least read it. Weeks passed, and then one day I got a letter back. It was from my mom. She wrote about how much they missed me and how they were trying to understand. She said they loved me, no matter what. Reading her words, I felt a mix of relief and hope. Maybe things could get better. After a few more letters, we decided to meet. I was nervous on the day of our meeting. I wore my favorite dress, a soft lavender one that made me feel beautiful. Emma came with me for support. We met my parents at a small cafe. When they saw me, there was a moment of silence. Then my mom got up and hugged me. It was a simple gesture, but it meant so much. The conversation was a bit awkward at first. We talked about small things, avoiding the big topic for a while. But eventually, we started talking about Cloe, about my transition. I explained how I felt, how hormone therapy was helping me. They listened, really listened. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Over the next few months, we slowly started rebuilding our relationship. They asked questions, trying to understand. Sometimes it was hard, explaining everything, but I was patient. I could see they were trying, and that mattered. During this time, I also started exploring more of my life as Cloe. I dated a bit, both boys and girls. It was nice feeling free to express my love as I truly am. People saw me as Cloe, and that felt right. I wasn't hiding anymore, I was just living. My parents' acceptance grew as well. They started calling me Cloe, and it warmed my heart every time they did. We weren't exactly like the family we used to be, but we were getting there in our own way. It was a different kind of family, but it was still filled with love. Living as Cloe, I felt like I could finally breathe, like I was no longer holding my breath. Life had its ups and downs, but I was facing them as my true self, and that made all the difference. Looking back, I realized how far I had come. From the scared kid hiding in his room to the woman I was now, living openly and happily. It was a journey filled with challenges, but it was my journey and I was proud of it. My relationship with my parents wasn't perfect, but it was getting better. They saw how happy I was, and that helped them understand. We were taking small steps, but they were steps filled with hope. And for now, that was enough. The future was still uncertain, but I was ready to face it with my family, Emma, and my new life as Cloe. The next big step in my journey was something I had thought about for a long time. After a lot of research and talking to my doctor, I decided to have gender confirmation surgery. It was a big decision, but I felt it was the right one for me. The months leading up to the surgery were filled with a mix of nerves and excitement. I had several appointments with doctors to make sure I was ready, both physically and emotionally. Emma was by my side through it all, always there to support me and make me laugh when I felt nervous. The day of the surgery, I felt a bit scared, but more than that, I felt hopeful. This surgery was a big step, but it was also a step towards a future where I could fully be myself. Emma came with me to the hospital. She held my hand and told me she'd be waiting when I woke up. The surgery went well, and when I woke up, Emma was there, just like she promised. Seeing her smiling face made me feel safe and happy. I had to stay in the hospital for a few days to recover. It was a bit uncomfortable, but each day I felt a little better. Then, on the third day of my recovery, something unexpected happened. I was resting in my room when a nurse came in. "You have visitors," she said. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I was surprised. Then the nurse opened the door and my parents walked in. Seeing them there in my hospital room was a shock. I hadn't told them about the surgery. I didn't think they'd want to know, but there they were, looking a bit nervous but also like they cared. My mom came over and took my hand. "We heard about your surgery," she said softly. "We were worried. We want you to know that we love you, Cloe. We might not understand everything, but we're trying. We want to be part of your life." Hearing those words from my mom, seeing them both there, it was overwhelming. I felt tears in my eyes. For so long, I had been afraid that they would never accept me, but here they were, in my hospital room, showing me that they cared. We talked for a while. It was a bit awkward at first, but it also felt good. I told them about my life, about how much happier I felt now. They listened, really listened. It felt like we were starting to understand each other, even if just a little bit. After they left, I lay in my bed, thinking about everything. It was a lot to take in. My surgery, my recovery, my parents' visit. It all felt like pieces of a puzzle coming together. In the days that followed, my parents visited a few more times. Each visit was a bit easier, a bit more comfortable. We talked about regular things like how Emma was doing and how I was feeling. It was nice, feeling like I had my family back, even if things were still a bit new and fragile. Recovering from the surgery took time, but I was patient. I knew that each day was a step towards a future where I could be fully myself. And now, with my parents starting to accept me, that future felt brighter. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.